We're months away from a surge in businesses collapsing. Let's have a look. Good morning, everyone. Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I have my Sunday morning stein of coffee, and I thought we'd start the day by having a look at this article from ABC News. It's discussing, the acceleration around businesses that are potentially collapsing. Now, I'm following several YouTubers from the US that are discussing similar things over there. Businesses put on life support. Zombie companies that are simply continuing because of the debt or the government money they're receiving and that are at risk of collapsing. Businesses that have had their entire customer base locked away. So they're pretty much just gonna potter on until they run out of cash. We'll have to have a look at this, how it's going to affect Australia. And once again, it's September and October where everything will come to a head. As the economy opens up, will consumer behaviors change? As JobKeeper disappears, as the job seeker bonus disappears, how will that affect people's spending? How will that affect some of these businesses? It's definitely something to consider. How many people will come out of this with a never again attitude, that have been living hand to mouth, that have been, using Afterpay every day, that have been putting everything on credit, going, never again. Never again will I be in this situation. In some ways, I hope it's a big chunk of the population. I hope a lot of people learn a valuable thing from this. I suspect it's going to change a generation. So let's have a look at this article, everyone. Business collapses to accelerate as the pandemic crisis drags on, experts warn. So, governments around the world start to open up their economies with hopefully the worst of the pandemic behind them. For the business community, it is a different story. And you've got to remember, everyone, that this is now a precedent. It is now a part of business. It has been established that there is a risk that the government will shut down the entire economy to mitigate illness. It's now a part of a business that we all have to live with, that we all have to plan for. And people think it's going to return to normal. People think businesses aren't going to adapt and adjust. If you've got the opportunity to outsource your work, if you've got the opportunity to have flexibility in employment, don't you think people are going to take that? It's a different world, everyone. It's a different world. Except for property, because property, is going to be exactly the same. It'll be a rebound. We'll have to see, guys. The worst could be yet to come, as months with little or no revenue take their toll. For example, Nicole Munns was the proprietor of a thriving video production house in Brisbane until Hollywood superstar Tom Hanks got the pandemic while filming on the Gold Coast. I can't even say the city that I grew up in. Don't hold it against me, guys. I did come from the Gold Coast. We probably would have another 4 or 6 weeks, I think, in the film industry before it started impacting us. But it became such a headline that I think a lot of productions had to take immediate action, Ms. Munns told the ABC. With 90% of her business gone and her staff laid off, Nicole is hanging on by the skin of her teeth. Provided we can just get through the next 6 to 12 month period, ideally with the support of the banks, then there will be lights on at the other side of this, she said. Okay, support of the banks. Here's the thing, guys. More and more people are... That's the scariest line in this entire article so far for me. Where she's asking for support of the banks, where they're publicly calling for it. The banks aren't our friends, everyone. They're protecting their own assets. They're protecting their own interests. Many businesses have already fallen over. Others have not made it. And remember, we haven't even had an official recession declared yet. Others have not made it, with the highest profile pandemic corporate casualty so far being the world's biggest car rental company, Hertz. Now, Hertz is a really interesting one, everyone. Because before they filed for bankruptcy, their shares started falling. And the retailers started buying in, the retail investors. And they flooded in, and they got hit hard. They got hit hard. So a lot of the wealthy, smart money was getting out. And the retail money was flooding in. It is in bankruptcy protection less than 18 months after a very public ceremonial ringing of the closing bell at the New York Stock Exchange to celebrate what it then thought was a bright future. A big debt load combined with a huge drop in travelers tipped Hertz over the edge. The same issue pushed Australia's highest profile pandemic victim so far, Virgin Australia, into administration. In whatever form Virgin reappears, the world has changed for both it and Qantas. If business travellers only come back very slowly and never get back to their previous levels of travelling because they are doing more online communication, exactly behavioural changes, then that's going to have a big long-term impact on airlines, AMP Capital Chief Economist Shane Oliver explains. The reason business travellers are airlines' most profitable customers. Well, there you go. I mean, how many of you who are now working from home and who are adapting, I've probably done more Zoom calls, more Skype business calls than I ever have done. And I'm young, I'm a nerdy type of computer guy. I really didn't embrace it, to be quite honest. I would always prefer personal meetings. But now, as long as you see each other on the screen, I guess it's fine. I'm getting used to it. And frankly, I prefer not having the 40-minute travel sometimes to just sit with a client when you can do it all online. It'll definitely be, from my perspective, it'll be something that I'll be pushing as the first option, remote meetings, if I can avoid going out to visit offices. Because frankly, if you're sitting down looking at something, you can do it over the phone, can't you? Others to go down so far in Australia include Sydney-based Function Centre Carriage Works, as well as retailers Tiger Lily and Aussie Disposals. Well, I mean, our retail sector has been in a dire strait for some time. I assume that the pandemic is simply just the bubble that burst. We've been reading about the retail recession since the beginning of the year, guys. It's been every other day. So, retail bearing the brunt of the pandemic. And it is in retail where the impacts of the pandemic may be most keenly felt. The last few years have seen a procession of collapse among mid-market fashion and apparel stores, unable to withstand competition from overseas and online competitors. And this was before any pandemic. Well, yes, I'd say there's another thing, guys. People are going to also, consumers, their behaviors are going to change. More people will be getting used to buying online. And as times get tough, we all get worried. We're hearing more and more about job losses once the big R word is officially coming out in the media, recession. People are going to tighten their belts. Everyone will tighten their belts, just out of habit. More people will look, oh, well, why are we going to go shop, buy, pay for parking, do this? We can just order it online and just wait. It's not that urgent. We did it for all this time here. Let's have a look. So there might be, here's a theory. I'm theory crafting here. There might be a jump in retail as people are free again. We can get out there and go shopping. I mean, yesterday I went out and we did a very rare instance where we bought junk food and watched movies with the kids. Because while we are homeschooling them, I don't want them to be those weird homeschool type stereotypes that don't even know what a Mars bar or a McDonald's meal is. That and everyone, all of us wearing the exact same matching outfits. They're the two stereotypes of homeschooling that I want to avoid like the plague. But nevertheless, there were cars everywhere. The streets were packed here in Sunnybank. So I think there'll be a burst up of people getting out there, freedom. And then it might settle down a little bit. We'll have to see. So look at the corporate casualties in 2020 before the pandemic. Jeans West, Kiki K, Colette by Colette, Holden, Curious Planet, McWilliams Wines, Harris Scarf and Bardot, among many others that we've looked at. Just look at my retail recession playlist here. Retail expert Louise Grimmer from the School of Marketing at the University of Tasmania believes the damage from the pandemic will make it even tougher for some others to survive. Brands like Cotton On, Just Jeans, JJ's, and even some of the female fashion brands, Susan and Katie's, there's really just not enough room for all those brands in the market, Dr. Grimmer said. She also believes the pandemic will hasten the downward spiral of Myer and David Jones, but thinks Target may be the first department store to go. Well, we've already seen that, haven't we? I was just surprised that West Farmers have announced that they're going to continue, I guess limping along the Target brand, when really perhaps the better decision to have been made would have been to close the brand completely, she said, in reference to last week's announcement. So she's thinking they should have closed the entire brand. So businesses brace for tough times later this year. But as the pandemic exacerbates the struggles of large parts of the retail sector, there are other parts of the economy which employ hundreds of thousands of people that will also find life tough in the post-pandemic world. And here we're talking about construction and tourism, I bet. Tourism will take a long time to fully recover, Dr. Oliver predicted. Housing construction is another area I think is in for a pretty tough time because we don't have immigrants coming to Australia. Between them, tourism and housing represent 9% of GDP, the nation's annual economic output, or about $170 billion, guys. $170 billion. And what we'll do is we'll bring up some data here, everyone, so we can compare that from the Observatory of Economic Complexity. And I will just jump over here and I will log in to the premium version they have now, or pro version, which gives you more information. There's a free trial to it if you're a fan of this website. Now we're ranked with economic complexity of 73rd in the world. So we're not doing too well. And look how experts per capita, that's interesting, only 9,910K. So if we go down here, or yeah, $9,000 per person, is that it? Wow. So if we go down here, you can see all of Australia's exports. And we're talking construction and tourism is 170 billion. So we'll compare it. Our coal industry is 57. Gas and petroleum is 17. Iron ore is 48. So this would be if the coal industry disappeared, the iron ore disappeared or took a huge hit, petroleum took a huge hit, and gold took a huge hit. Okay? Guys, that's what, 20% or 30, 50, 56% roughly of Australia's exports in these two industries. It's a big chunk of the economy, guys. Big chunk of the workforce. Big chunk of spending that also floods into retail, which will affect that. One thing leads to another. So with businesses like Empire, what businesses like Empire Post are focusing on now, though, and worry about is September. And here we go. This is going to be another piece where they'll be discussing, because I honestly, I do not think, I would be shocked with the JobKeeper. I would be shocked if they just switch it off in September. That is when JobKeeper and the memorandum on loan repayments to banks and evictions by landlords are all scheduled to end. All of them come to a halt at the same time. It's just going to be like the entire economy hitting a wall, Empire Post owner Nicole said. Dr. Grimmer agrees, saying it could spell the end for many companies. That is what I call zombie businesses out there that are only surviving at the moment because they're being propped up by the government, she warned. September will see who the winners and who the losers are. So what do you think, guys? Do you think they will just shut off the tap? Do you think they have the guts to do that? Do you think businesses would have legal recourse against the government? Oh, probably not. They'll change the rules to make sure you can't do them. They've got the authority to use force and do what they want. So there we have it, guys. An interesting take on zombie businesses, and one local business here that's looking like they're in trouble. Here's the question: why do they need an office? Guys, probably for server storage. I guess the biggest issue for them would be post-production, would be data moving around. It'd be huge amounts of data with the film that they're doing. That'd be the biggest thing. And that'd probably be why you need an office, because it'd be easier just to keep the data in one place than to move it all around. And you wouldn't want leaks as well if you're working on movies. Well, what do you think, everyone? Do you think Australian businesses are going to survive? Do you think JobKeeper and the other stimulus measures will just be switched off in September? As always, please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and you'd like to support this channel, there are a few ways you can. You can join on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us via affiliate links at Amazon or eBay or Independent Reserve and Kucoin. You can buy a merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care. I'll see you in the next video.